Well, good afternoon. You maybe saw in the heading for this video that I was going to talk about unicorns and butterflies and tie that to our reading for today. And actually, that's just a really dirty trick this pastor has played in order for you to engage in this video, because what we're really going to talk about is stewardship and generosity. And whenever it comes to stewardship, especially money, we just don't like to talk about it, especially in relation to the church. Now, I can go on and on and on about how stewardship is so much more than just money. It's about how we use our time, all our skills. It's about how we take care of the earth and those things that God has given us. It's about our whole selves and about our whole lives and how we use and invest of ourselves and our resources into the kingdom of God. But it still comes down to the fact that money is indeed part of stewardship. And it's understandable that we don't want to get into conversations about it, because money comes with so much baggage and emotional baggage. We live in a culture that gives us some really skewed ideas about money. It's about spending more and more and more, and this idea that the more we have, the more material possessions we have, the more money we have, the better we are and the better our life is. And, that's not true. And there's also some other weird things about it. When I was working in corporate life, our employer told us if we were caught talking about how much money we were being paid at work, it was a dismissible offense. And so there's different attitudes about that money's supposed to be kind of secretive. Well, then let's go into the emotional aspects of money. If we don't have enough, if we have spent our money on the wrong things, if we aren't providing well for our families, then money becomes loaded with things like guilt and embarrassment and shame or self-consciousness. So, yuck, right? When we're talking about money. But here's the thing. Jesus talks about money, and Jesus talks about money more than just about any other subject in the Gospels. Money's right up there in the top 2 or 3 things that Jesus talks about the most. And it is part of our lives. And so anything that is a part of our life, especially a significant part of our life, we need to talk about, because our whole lives are about faith and our whole lives are about how we follow Jesus. And so the next 3 weeks, we are going to be talking about stewardship and generosity. And just part of that conversation will be about money. And I hope that what happens is that we will just start to understand that there can be some different attitudes and feelings about money, and especially as it relates to the church. So let's start with our Matthew reading for today, and just going to touch on this one really briefly. First of all, the reading in Matthew comes in the center of what is called the Sermon on the Mount. The Sermon on the Mount goes from chapters 5 through chapter 7. And in this sermon, Jesus lays out this vision that God has for us and for our lives and how we live. And Jesus addresses things like the 10 Commandments and the Lord's Prayer. And we hear things that the people who are blessed are the poor and the hungry and the meek. And we hear things that we are to even pray for our enemies. And so we get this idea that God's kingdom is a countercultural kingdom. It often goes against what we normally think of in our human world, and our resources and our stewardship is no different. So there's 2 points I want to talk about in this reading. First is investing ourselves, our time, and our money in things that are of the kingdom of God, in the things that last. In our human world, things are and not just things, but movements, initiatives. There are so many things that are temporary, where they're just not going to last, that don't really add value to our lives or to the world. But God says to put our treasures in things that last, to put our treasure in that of the kingdom. And where our treasure is, there our heart will be. And notice the order of that. We don't figure out what we're passionate about and then put our money there. That's the way human world works. In God's world, we put our money, we put our treasure, we put our time, our energy, and our resources into the kingdom of God, and our heart follows. And think about when we have our heart in something, then the emotions are engagement and excitement and passion and love. So that's the first part of it. The second part is this long section of encouragement not to worry. Not to worry about the things of our lives, what we'll eat, what we'll wear. That's a lot of intention and energy that maybe isn't fruitful in the kingdom of God. But the picture that this is creating is this understanding that God created this world and created all of us out of love, and so God will take care of God's creation. And it creates a sense that there is an abundance, and there truly is. There is an abundance of resources and blessings that God has given us, and there's enough to go around. The trick is for us to share it, to give of what we have. And the countercultural piece here is that the more we give, the more we have. This is a communal command for all of us to be living this way. So sometimes it might feel that us alone are truly lacking, and we very well may be. We know too many people live in poverty and without what they need. But if we all lived this way, there would be enough, and there would be more than enough. There would be in abundance. And that's why it's important for us to give. It's not so much for the receiver, but it's important for the giver to give. And again, not just money, but of all of our resources. Now, the thing about this, again, remember, is that this is the perfect vision of God, and we're going to fall short. But this shows us what we are going to strive for. It shows us the experience that we can have around money and around giving of ourselves and investing of ourselves. And that when we do that, our experience of life isn't about shame and guilt and embarrassment or self-consciousness, but it's about that engagement and about that passion, and it's about contentment and gratitude. And those are amazing experiences of life. And wouldn't we rather choose that and choose that approach with our money and our resources and our time than the human way? So just some things to think about. Again, sorry for the trickiness in getting you engaged in this video, but I hope this is helpful, and I hope that you will find some new insights into stewardship and generosity over the course of these next 3 weeks. Have a great afternoon. Thanks.